My father always said that weakness was a choice, that poverty was a moral failing, that people who ended up with nothing deserved their fate because they lacked vision, discipline, strength. I believed him. God help me. I believed every word that came out of Richard Ashford's mouth. My name is Alexandra Ashford Alex to the few people who ever got close enough to matter, and for 23 years, I lived in a golden cage so beautiful I didn't realize it was a prison. I grew up in the Ashford Mansion in Greenwich, Connecticut, where the toilet paper probably cost more than most people's grocery bills. My childhood bedroom had a walk-in closet bigger than the studio apartment I'm living in now. Past tense, living, because 3 days ago I got evicted. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me take you back to the beginning, to the moment when my perfectly constructed life began its spectacular collapse, to the day I learned that my father, the great Richard Ashford, real estate mogul, self-made billionaire, the man whose TED Talk on building empires from nothing has 17 million views, was nothing but a carefully crafted lie. I remember being 13 years old, sitting at my antique French writing desk, the one Marie Antoinette supposedly owned, according to my father. I was working on my application essay for Riverside Prep, the elite boarding school where Kennedys and Rockefellers sent their children. My father stood behind me, reading over my shoulder, his cologne Tom Ford, $300 a bottle filling the air. "Alex, this is garbage," he said, his voice sharp enough to cut glass. "You sound like you're apologizing for existing. Winners don't apologize. They take." "I'm just trying to be humble, Dad," Miss Peterson said. Miss Peterson is a failed writer teaching at a public middle school. "I'm a man worth $300 million. Who do you think knows more about success?" I deleted the paragraph, started over, wrote what he wanted to hear, that I was destined for greatness, that mediocrity was unacceptable, that I would continue the Ashford legacy of excellence. He smiled, satisfied, and placed his hand on my shoulder, the closest thing to affection I would get all week. "That's my girl. Remember, Alexandra, in this world, you're either the predator or the prey, and Ashfords are always predators." I remember feeling proud, chosen, special. I remember being such a fool. Fast forward 10 years. I'm sitting in Professor Whitmore's corporate ethics class at Harvard, which is ironic considering I am the daughter of a man who treated ethics like a suggestion rather than a rule. I got into Harvard on my own merit, perfect set scores, valedictorian at Riverside Prep, 3 AP classes, but I'd be lying if I said my last name didn't help. The Ashford name opened doors. Past tense again. Opened. Before those same doors slammed in my face so hard I still have the bruises. Professor Whitmore is mid-lecture, gesturing passionately about corporate fraud and the 2008 financial crisis. "These men," he says, "these architects of destruction, they didn't just bankrupt companies, they bankrupted families. They destroyed lives and walked away with golden parachutes and book deals." My phone vibrates. Unknown number. I ignore it. It vibrates again, and again, and again. The woman next to me shoots me an annoyed look. I grab my bag and slip out of the lecture hall, my face burning with embarrassment. Outside in Harvard Yard, students are scattered across the grass, enjoying the early spring weather. I answer the phone, irritated, expecting a spam call about my car's extended warranty. "Hello? Is this Alexandra Ashford?" A woman's voice. Professional, careful. Depends who's asking. "My name is Catherine Chen. I'm an attorney with Hutchins and Bard in New York. We represent your father's estate." The word estate hits me like a physical blow. Estate, past tense, was. "What are you talking about?" My voice sounds strange to my own ears, high-pitched and thin. "Miss Ashford, I'm very sorry to inform you that your father passed away 3 days ago. Massive heart attack in his office. It was quick. I've been trying to reach you." The world tilts. I grab onto a nearby tree, its bark rough against my palm, the only thing keeping me tethered to reality. Students walk past laughing, complaining about midterms, living their normal lives while mine disintegrates. "That's impossible. He just sent me an email last week." But what did that email say? "Still wasting time on that philosophy degree? When you're ready to do something serious with your life, call me." I hadn't called. I deleted it like I deleted all his disappointed messages. "I understand this is shocking," Catherine continues, her voice gentler now. However, there are urgent legal matters that require your immediate attention. Your father's will is extremely complex, and there are time-sensitive issues regarding the estate. What kind of issues? I'd rather discuss this in person. Can you come to New York tomorrow morning? Something in her voice, a tightness, a warning makes my stomach drop. Ms. Chen, just tell me. Whatever it is, I can handle it. Famous last words. Miss Ashford, your father's company is bankrupt. The estate is insolvent, and you, as his sole heir and co-signer on multiple loans, are personally liable for approximately $47 million in debt. I laugh. I actually laugh, because the alternative is screaming. That's insane. My father is worth hundreds of millions. Was worth. On paper. Miss Ashford, please come to New York. We need to discuss this face to face. She hangs up. I stand there in Harvard Yard, students flowing around me like I'm a rock in a stream, and I realize I'm shaking. Not from cold, from something much worse, fear. The next morning, I'm in Manhattan, standing in the law offices of Hutchins and Bard. The offices occupy 3 floors of a skyscraper with views that make you feel like you're standing on top of the world. I've been here before for some charity gala my father dragged me to when I was 16. Back then, I belonged. Now, in my worn jeans and Target sweater, I feel like an imposter. Catherine Chen sits across from me in the conference room, immaculate in a gray suit that probably cost more than my entire semester's tuition. Between us, a mountain of documents, each one apparently another nail in my coffin. Let me walk you through this carefully, she says, opening a folder. Your father's business model relied heavily on leveraging assets using borrowed money to acquire properties, then borrowing against those properties to acquire more. It's risky, but when it works spectacularly. And when it doesn't, she gestures at the documents. In the past 18 months, several of your father's key investments collapsed. The luxury hotel chain in Dubai, the residential development in Miami, the tech company he was majority shareholder in. Each failure created a cascade effect. Creditors called in loans, assets were seized. More loans were taken to cover the shortfall, creating more debt. She slides a document across the table. I see my name. I see numbers with so many zeros they blur together. Your father made you a co-signer on multiple loans starting when you turned 18. Do you remember this? I do, of course I do. My 18th birthday, in his study, him telling me it was a rite of passage. You're an adult now, Alexandra. Time to be part of the empire. Just a formality sign here, and here. Shows the banks that we're a family unit, that we have shared interests. Trust is everything in business. I trusted him. I signed everything he put in front of me without reading it, because he was my father, because I was 18 and stupid, because I wanted so desperately for him to be proud of me. These signatures, Catherine continues, make you personally liable for the debts attached to these loans. Commercial property mortgage, business acquisition loans, lines of credit. The total comes to $47,800,000. The number is so absurd it doesn't feel real. It's monopoly money, it's a joke. I don't have $47 million. I know, which brings us to your trust fund. The trust fund, my safety net. My grandmother, my father's mother, established it when I was born. $800,000. Untouchable until my 25th birthday or graduation from college, whichever came first. My secret comfort blanket, the knowledge that even if everything went wrong, I had that. Your father was the trustee, Catherine says, and I already know where this is going. He had the legal authority to borrow against the trust value. Which he did, repeatedly. The trust is empty, Miss Ashford, and because he borrowed more than its value, you actually owe an additional $12 million. I can't breathe. The conference room, with its perfect temperature control and filtered air, feels like it's suffocating me. So I have nothing. Worse than nothing. I have negative $60 million. Yes. And the house? The cars? The artwork? all seized or in the process of being seized. Your father's creditors are extremely aggressive. They're filing claims against everything: his corporate assets, personal property, even items that technically belong to other family members. Your grandmother's jewelry collection is currently in litigation. I think about my grandmother's pearls, the ones she wore in her wedding photo, the ones she promised would be mine someday. There's one more thing, Catherine says, reaching into her briefcase. Your father left specific instructions in his will. A letter. He wanted you to read it only after you understood the full financial situation. His words were, let her see clearly first, without hope clouding her judgment. She hands me an envelope. Heavy cream paper, my name written in my father's distinctive handwriting, bold, commanding, taking up more space than necessary. I stare at it, this final message from a dead man who destroyed my life. Can I have the room? I ask. Catherine nods and leaves, closing the door softly behind her. I'm alone with my father's last words. I open the envelope. That night, I am sitting on the floor of the cheapest hotel room I could find in Manhattan, which is still $200. A night I can't afford reading my father's letter for the 5th time, maybe the 6th. I've lost count. The words haven't changed. Alexandra, it begins. Not, dear Alexandra or my daughter. Just my name, like I'm an employee receiving a memo. If you're reading this, you now understand the situation I've engineered. Not left you in or, unfortunately created, engineered, like it was a project. A plan. You've always been soft, Alexandra. You chose philosophy over business school. You want to make a difference instead of making money. You have your mother's weak heart, her foolish sentimentality. I spent 23 years trying to forge you into something strong, something worthy of the Ashford name, but you resisted at every turn. I can hear his voice in every word. The disappointment. The contempt. So I'm giving you what you claim to want, authenticity. Reality. A chance to live without privilege, without the oppressive burden of wealth that you love to philosophize about. You wanted to understand the human condition? Congratulations, now you'll experience it firsthand. My hands are shaking. I put the letter down, then pick it up again. The debt is real. The consequences are real. But here's what else is real. You're my daughter. Somewhere under all that weakness and sentimentality, you have my genes, my intelligence, my killer instinct. The question is whether you're capable of accessing it. Can you survive? Can you rebuild? Can you become the predator I always knew you could be? Or will you crumble, proving that my worst fears about you were correct? There's more. Instructions on how I should handle the creditor's aggressive negotiation tactics, legal loopholes, ways to buy time. It's like he's giving me homework from beyond the grave. And then, at the end, don't waste energy hating me. Hate is what prey feels toward the predator. If you're truly my daughter, you'll understand that I've given you the greatest gift possible, necessity. Comfort breeds weakness. Desperation breeds innovation. I've taken everything from you so you can discover what you're actually capable of building. Consider this your inheritance, not money, but opportunity. The opportunity to prove you're more than the disappointment I always suspected you were. He signs it. Simply R. Ashford, not Dad, not your father. Just his initial, like I'm a business associate. I crumple the letter. Then I smooth it out and read it again, because apparently I'm a masochist. Or because some part of me is still looking for love in these cold, calculated words. There isn't any. There never was. I think about my mother. She died when I was 8, breast cancer that spread faster than anyone expected. I remember her lying in that hospital bed, her skin paper thin, her hair gone from the chemotherapy. My father visited once. He stood in the doorway for maybe 5 minutes, checked his watch twice, and told her he had a conference call he couldn't miss. I understand, she whispered, because even dying, she was still trying to make him comfortable. After she passed, I found her journal hidden in her closet. Pages and pages of her trying to understand why her husband was so cold, so distant, so incapable of love. Maybe if I'm thinner, one entry read. Maybe if I'm smarter. Maybe if I give him more space. Maybe if I need him less. She spent her entire marriage trying to be enough for a man who was fundamentally incapable of seeing her as anything more than an accessory. And I spent my entire childhood doing the same thing. The difference is, she never got angry. She never fought back. She just faded away, apologizing for taking up space until she didn't take up any space at all. I won't be her. I won't disappear quietly because some man decided I was unworth his time or attention or basic human decency. My phone buzzes. A text from an unknown number. Final notice. Payment of $847.32 due immediately or service will be disconnected. My phone bill. I'd forgotten about my phone bill. $847 might as well be $8 million right now. I look around the hotel room. Stained carpet. A painting of a sunset bolted to the wall so guests can't steal it. A Bible in the nightstand drawer, like God might be hiding in there with some solutions. This is my life now. This is what my father's gift looks like. I could file for bankruptcy, Catherine mentioned it. Start over with nothing, but at least without the crushing weight of $60 million in debt. Spend the next 7 to 10 years rebuilding my credit, working minimum wage jobs because no one will hire the bankrupt daughter of a disgraced businessman, living in places like this or worse. Or I could do what the letter suggests, fight, negotiate, use every dirty trick in the book to buy myself time and maybe, eventually find a way out. But there's a third option. One my father didn't consider because he was too arrogant to imagine it. I could destroy him. His legacy, his reputation, everything he built and everyone who helped him build it. I could make sure that when people remember Richard Ashford, they don't think about his empire or his success or his inspiring TED Talk. They think about what he really was, a monster who destroyed everyone who made the mistake of loving him. The idea takes root in my mind like a seed in fertile soil. Dark and ugly and absolutely intoxicating. The next morning, I'm walking through Manhattan at 6 a.m., everything I own in a single backpack. The city is just waking up, delivery trucks, street cleaners, people in scrubs heading home from night shifts. The real New York, the one that exists beneath the glossy surface I used to skim across in town cars and Ubers. I pass a newsstand. My father's face stares out from the cover of Forbes, The Fall of a Titan. Richard Ashford's empire crumbles. Inside, there will be a sympathetic profile. The tragic tale of a self-made man who took one risk too many. They'll paint him as Icarus, flying too close to the sun, brought down by ambition rather than greed and deliberate cruelty. They'll never mention the daughter he bankrupted on purpose. The life he destroyed as his final lesson. My phone rings. Catherine Chen. Ms. Ashford, we need to discuss next steps. The creditors are moving faster than I anticipated. They're filing claims against your future earnings, which means they can garnish any wages you make for the foreseeable future. I'd recommend filing for bankruptcy protection, but even that won't eliminate all of your liability. You need to make a decision soon. I'll call you back, I say, and hang up. Bankruptcy, wage garnishment. Legal terms that used to be abstract concepts from textbooks are now my life. I keep walking. I'm not sure where I'm going, but I can't stand still. And then I remember the storage unit. There's one place the creditors haven't found yet. My father's private storage unit. Not the one attached to his office where he kept corporate documents. The personal one, registered under a shell company name I only know about because I snooped through his files when I was 16, looking for my birthday present. I never found out what was in there. He caught me before I could dig deeper, and the punishment, 3 months of silent treatment, taught me not to ask questions. But now I have nothing to lose. The storage facility is in Queens, industrial and anonymous. The kind of place where people hide things they don't want found. I take 2 buses and walk the last mile because I can't afford a cab. My feet hurt. My back hurts from sleeping on that terrible hotel mattress. Everything hurts. I use my father's old key code, my mother's birthday, because he was sentimental in the strangest ways, and the lock clicks open. The door rolls up with a metallic screech that echoes through the empty corridor. Inside, boxes. Dozens of them, neatly labeled in my father's handwriting. Tax records 1998 to 2003. Property deeds. Corporate correspondence. All the boring detritus of a businessman's life. The paper trail of deals and acquisitions and the slow accumulation of wealth. And then, in the back corner, a small fireproof safe. No label, no indication of what's inside. Just a black metal box with a digital keypad, sitting there like a dare. I try my birthday. Nothing. His birthday. Nothing. My mother's birthday again. Still nothing. Then, on a hunch born of desperation and the intimate knowledge of how my father's mind worked, I try the date of his first major business deal. The one he loved to talk about at dinner parties, the one he claimed was the foundation of everything that came after. June 15, 1994, the day he bought his first property, a run-down apartment building in Brooklyn that he flipped for triple the investment. The safe beeps. The lock disengages. The door swings open. Inside, a single folder. Worn at the edges, like it's been opened and closed 1,000 times. Like my father came here regularly to look at whatever was inside, to remind himself of something. I pull it out, my heart pounding for reasons I don't understand yet. The tab reads, Project Genesis, Confidential. I open it, and everything changes. Bank statements from the Cayman Islands, wire transfers to numbered accounts. Property deeds in names I don't recognize. And photographs, dozens of them, of my father with people I've never seen before, taken in places that look like they're from the 1990s. Miami, Los Angeles. A small town that might be somewhere in Mexico, and then I see it, a birth certificate. Not mine, someone else's, a boy. Born August 3, 1995. Father, Richard Ashford. Mother, Maria Elena Santos. I have a brother. My father had another family. I sit down on the concrete floor of the storage unit, my legs suddenly unable to hold me. A brother. A whole other person who shares my DNA, my last name, my terrible father. Does he know about me? Did my father destroy his life too, or was I the special one, the chosen target of his final lesson? I keep reading. There are letters written in Spanish from Maria to my father. I don't speak Spanish well, but I understand enough. Please, Richard, he needs you. The school called again about the tuition. I can't do this alone anymore. You promised. And my father's response is cold and clinical. Bank transfers, nothing personal. Just money, sent like you'd pay any other bill, mechanical and without warmth. The last letter is dated 2008. Richard, I'm done begging. Miguel deserves better than a father who treats him like a dirty secret. We're leaving. Don't try to find us. We don't want your money anymore. We don't want anything from you, Miguel. My brother's name is Miguel. I keep digging through the folder. There are more documents. Property records showing my father owned the building where Maria and Miguel lived, and that he evicted them in 2008, the same year as that final letter. Legal documents showing he sued Maria for defamation when she tried to tell people about their relationship. A settlement agreement where she agreed to never speak about him publicly in exchange for $50,000 and a promise he'd leave them alone. My father didn't just abandon them. He actively destroyed them. And then he hid the evidence here in this storage unit, like he was keeping trophies. But why? Why keep all of this if he wanted it hidden? Why not destroy it? And then I understand. Because my father was arrogant. Because he believed he was untouchable. Because keeping these records was proof of his power. Look at what I did. Look at who I crushed. Look at how completely I controlled every situation. He never imagined anyone would find this. Never imagined his carefully constructed empire would collapse. Never imagined his disappointing daughter would be standing in a storage unit in Queens, holding the evidence of his darkest secrets. I pull out my phone, take pictures of everything. Every document, every photograph, every damning piece of evidence. My hands are shaking so badly some of the photos come out blurry, but I don't care. I take them again and again until I have everything documented, because this is it. This is how I destroy him. I spent 3 hours in that storage unit, photographing every single document, reading every letter, memorizing every detail. By the time I'm done, my phone storage is almost full and my brain feels like it's going to explode. Miguel Ashford Santos, born in Miami, would be 29 years old now. According to these documents, his mother worked as a housekeeper at one of my father's properties. That's how they met. She was 22. My father was 37 and married to my mother. I do the math. Miguel was born in 1995. I was born in 1997, which means my father was living a double life, bouncing between his legitimate family in Connecticut and his secret family in Florida. 2 women. 2 children. Both of us believing we had his attention, his love, his commitment. Neither of us actually having any of it. There are school photos of Miguel tucked into the folder. A gap-toothed first grader, a serious-looking middle schooler. A teenager with my father's eyes and my mother's gentle smile. Wait. No, not my mother's smile, Maria's smile. But it's the same softness, the same warmth. My father had a type apparently. Kind women, soft women, women he could crush. I wonder what Miguel knows. Does he hate our father the way I'm starting to? Or does he remember him fondly, miss him, mourn him? Does he even know Richard Ashford is dead? The last document in the folder is dated 2012, a private investigator's report. My father hired someone to find Maria and Miguel after they disappeared. The PI tracked them to a small town in New Mexico, Las Cruces. Maria was working as a nurse. Miguel was in high school, apparently doing well on the soccer team, honor roll. And my father did nothing with this information, just filed it away. Kept tabs on them from a distance but never reached out, never tried to reconnect, never sent money or support or even a birthday card. He just watched. Making sure they existed. Making sure they were struggling just enough, but not so much that it would come back to haunt him. I take a photo of the PI report, zooming in on the address. 2847 Alameda Boulevard, Las Cruces, New Mexico. It's 4 years old, but it's a starting point. My phone buzzes. A text from a number I don't recognize. Hi Alexandra. This is Jennifer Kim from Wells Fargo Collections Department. We need to discuss your outstanding debt. Please call me at your earliest convenience. I delete it. Another one comes through immediately, this time from Chase Bank, then Capital One. The creditors are circling like sharks who smell blood in the water. I look around the storage unit one more time. There might be more hidden here, more secrets buried in these boxes. But I don't have time to search through everything. The storage unit rent is paid through the end of the month. Check the receipt taped to the inside of the door, which gives me 3 weeks before this. Place gets discovered and seized like everything else. I close the safe, make sure I've taken photos of absolutely everything, and lock up. As I'm walking back to the bus stop, my mind is racing. What do I do with this information? Go to the press? Expose my father's secret family and watch his legacy crumble? It would feel good, satisfying even, to see his carefully curated image destroyed. But it wouldn't just hurt him. He's dead. He's beyond pain, beyond consequences, beyond caring. It would hurt Miguel and Maria. They're the ones who would get dragged through the media circus. They're the ones whose lives would get dissected by strangers on the internet. They're the ones who didn't ask for any of this. No, if I'm going to use this information, I need to be smart about it. Strategic. I need to understand the whole picture first. Which means I need to find Miguel. The bus arrives and I climb on, dropping my last few dollars and quarters into the fare box. I find a seat in the back and pull out my phone, opening Google Maps. Las Cruces, New Mexico is 2,000 miles away. A 3-day drive if I had a car, which I don't. A plane ticket would cost at least $300, probably more. And I have exactly $47.32 in my checking account. But I have a credit card. One credit card that my father doesn't know about, because I opened it myself when I was 19, using my summer job income as a waitress to establish credit. The limit is only $2,000, and I've been good about keeping it paid off, which means right now I have about $1,800 of available credit. $1,800. It's not much. But it might be enough to get me to New Mexico, find Miguel, and figure out what he knows. Maybe he has information I don't. Maybe he found other secrets, other documents. Maybe together we can piece together the full scope of what our father did. Or maybe he'll slam the door in my face. Maybe he doesn't want anything to do with Richard Ashford's legitimate daughter. Maybe he blames me for having the life he should have had, the mansion, the private schools, the trust fund. Even though I lost all of it. Even though I'm just as much a victim as he is. I pull up flight prices on my phone. New York to El Paso, the closest major airport to Las Cruces, is $423 for a one-way ticket leaving tomorrow morning. I book it before I can talk myself out of it. Watch my available credit drop to $1,377. I'll need money for a rental car, for gas, for food, for a place to sleep. $1,300 won't last long. But I'm not thinking long-term right now. I'm thinking, find Miguel, understand what happened, figure out what I'm actually dealing with. Everything else can wait. The bus drops me off in Manhattan, and I start walking toward the public library. I need to do research. I need to learn everything I can about Las Cruces, about finding people who don't want to be found, about what I'm going to say when I show up on my brother's doorstep. Hi, I'm the sister you never knew you had. Our father destroyed both our lives. Want to help me burn down his legacy? Yeah, that'll go over great. But as I walk through the crowded streets, dodging tourists and commuters and street vendors, I feel something I haven't felt in days. Purpose. My father wanted to teach me about survival. About being a predator instead of prey. Fine lesson learned. But he forgot something crucial. Predators don't hunt alone. They hunt in packs. And I just found my pack. A young woman in her early 20s, with long light brown hair and blue eyes. A slender build and an elegant understated style stands. Beside her father, a tall man in his 40s with short slightly graying hair and brown eyes and imposing presence wearing an elegant business suit with a serious and realistic expression. The next morning, I'm at JFK Airport at 5 a.m., standing in the security line with my single backpack and a growing sense of unreality. 24 hours ago, I was reading my father's letter, drowning in debt and despair. Now I'm flying across the country to meet a brother I didn't know existed. The airport is packed with business travelers in expensive suits, families heading to Disney World, college students going home for spring break. Everyone looks so normal, so unburdened. I wonder what they'd think if they knew the woman standing behind them in line is $60 million in debt and on the run from creditors. On the run. That's dramatic. But it's also accurate. Catherine Chen called me 6 times last night. I didn't answer. She left voicemails, each one more urgent than the last. Miss Ashford, you need to respond to the creditors. They're threatening legal action. We need to formulate a strategy. I don't have a strategy. I have a credit card with a shrinking balance and a 4-year-old address in New Mexico. The security agent looks at my ID, then at me, then back at my ID. Alexandra Ashford? She says, yes. Any relation to Richard Ashford, the real estate guy? My stomach tightens. Why do you ask? I just saw him on the news. Died recently, right? Shame, my cousin worked for one of his companies. Got laid off when everything collapsed. She hands back my ID, her expression neutral but her eyes cold. Have a nice flight. I take my ID with shaking hands and move through security. This is what my life is now. Strangers recognizing my name, associating me with my father's failures, his fraud, his destruction. The Ashford name used to open doors. Now it just invites judgment. The flight to El Paso is 4 hours. I spend them staring out the window, watching the landscape change from the dense urban sprawl of the East Coast to the vast emptiness of the Southwest. Somewhere down there is my brother, living his life. Maybe he's happy. Maybe he's successful. Maybe he's got everything figured out in a way I never will. Or maybe he's just as broken as I am. When we land, I rent the cheapest car available, a beat-up Honda Civic that smells like cigarettes and regret, and start the hour-long drive to Las Cruces. The landscape is alien to me. Desert, mountains in the distance. I've spent my whole life in places where buildings block out the sky. Here, there's nothing but space and light, and a horizon that seems to go on forever. Las Cruces is smaller than I expected. Not tiny, but not the sprawling metropolis I'm used to. I drive past New Mexico State University, past strip malls and chain restaurants, following the GPS to Alameda Boulevard. The address from the Pi report leads me to a modest apartment complex. 2 stories, stucco exterior painted a sun-faded beige, a parking lot with more empty spaces than cars. It's not a bad neighborhood, but it's not a good one either. It's the kind of place where people live when they're trying to get by, not trying to get ahead. I park and sit in the car for 10 minutes, trying to figure out what I'm going to say. I've rehearsed a dozen opening lines, but they all sound insane. Hi, I'm your sister, sounds like the opening to a soap opera. We need to talk about our father, sounds like a threat. I found your birth certificate in a storage unit, sounds like something a stalker would say. Finally, I force myself out of the car and walk to apartment 2B. The building has an outdoor walkway with a metal railing that is hot to the touch in the afternoon sun. I climb the stairs, my heart pounding so hard I can hear it in my ears. I knock. Wait, nothing. I knock again, harder this time. Still nothing. I'm about to give up, to go find a cheap motel and come back tomorrow when I hear footsteps. The door opens a crack, security chain still attached. A woman's face appears in the gap. Late 40s, dark hair streaked with gray, tired eyes that narrow with suspicion when she sees me. Can I help you? She asks. Her English is perfect but accented. This is Maria. Hi, my name is Alexandra. I'm looking for Miguel Santos, or Miguel Ashford. I'm not sure which name he uses. The woman's expression hardens. Who are you? I take a breath. I'm Richard Ashford's daughter. The door slams shut. I hear rapid Spanish on the other side, a woman's voice rising in anger or fear or both. Then silence. I stand there, not sure what to do. Should I knock again? Should I leave? Should I explain through the door that I'm not here to cause trouble, that I'm not my father? Before I can decide, the door opens again. This time without the chain. Maria stands there, and up close I can see she's been crying. Her eyes are red-rimmed, her hands trembling slightly as she crosses her arms over her chest. Richard is dead, she says. It's not a question. Yes, a week ago. Heart attack. Good. The word is flat, emotionless. I prayed for it. Every night for 15 years, I prayed God would take him before he could hurt anyone else. I don't know what to say to that. So I just stand there, this woman's hate washing over me like a wave. Why are you here? Maria asks. What do you want? I want to talk to Miguel. I found there are documents. Things about our father that I think Miguel should know. Things I think we should both know. Miguel doesn't use that name anymore. He's Miguel Santos. Just Santos. He dropped the Ashford name when he was 16, legally changed it. That man doesn't deserve to be anyone's father. I understand. I'm not here to defend him. I'm here because he destroyed my life too, and I think maybe together we can figure out why. Figure out what he was really doing. Maria studies me for a long moment. I can see her weighing her options, trying to decide if I'm trustworthy or if I'm another Ashford bringing more pain. Finally, she steps back and opens the door wider. Miguel isn't here. He doesn't live here anymore, but he's in town. I'll call him. She pulls out her phone, then pauses. He's going to be angry. At you, at me for letting you in, at your father even though he's dead, Miguel. He carries a lot of anger. So do I say quietly. Maria nods and makes the call. I hear her speaking rapid Spanish, her voice rising and falling with emotion. At one point she switches to English. She's here now. She says Richard destroyed her too. A pause. I believe her. She hangs up and looks at me. He'll be here in 20 minutes. You can wait inside if you want. I follow her into the apartment. It's small but clean, decorated with family photos and religious icons. A crucifix hangs above the TV. There are pictures of Miguel at various ages, graduation photos, soccer team photos, a recent one where he's standing next to Maria at what looks like a birthday celebration. In every photo, he's smiling. But that's the same smile I see on my own face in pictures, the one that doesn't quite reach the eyes. We sit in silence for what feels like hours, but is probably only minutes. Maria doesn't offer me anything to drink. She just sits across from me, watching me with the wariness of someone who's been burned before. Finally, I hear footsteps on the stairs outside. Heavy, quick, angry. The door bursts open, and there he is. My brother. Miguel Santos is tall, easily 6'2", with my father's build and dark hair, but Maria's eyes and complexion. He's wearing work clothes, jeans, a construction company t-shirt, boots covered in dust. He looks at me with such intensity, I have to fight the urge to look away. So, he says, his voice low and dangerous, you're the chosen one. The legitimate daughter. The one who got everything while we got nothing. I stand up, meeting his gaze. I got nothing too. He made sure of that. $60 million in debt. Everything seized. My life destroyed as his final lesson. Miguel laughs, but there's no humor in it. Final lesson. That sounds like something he'd do. That manipulative son of a Miguel, Maria says sharply. He ignores her, taking a step toward me. Why are you here, Alexandra? What do you want from us? I want the truth, I say. All of it. Everything he did. Everyone he hurt. I found documents in a storage unit. Your birth certificate. Letters from your mother. Evidence of things that I don't fully understand yet. Evidence of what? I think our father was involved in something bigger than real estate fraud. I think there's more to his empire than anyone knows. And I think, if we work together, we can figure out what it was. Miguel stares at me for a long moment. Then he pulls out a chair and sits down heavily. You want to know the truth about Richard Ashford? He says, fine. But trust me, little sister. You're not going to like what you find. Miguel gets up and walks to a small desk in the corner of the apartment. He pulls out a drawer, reaches underneath it, and removes something taped to the bottom. An envelope. Old, yellowed with age, the edges frayed. I've been carrying this around for 12 years, he says, sitting back down. Waiting for the right moment to use it. Guess that moment is now. He slides the envelope across the table to me. I open it carefully. Inside are photographs, grainy, taken from a distance, surveillance-style shots. My father, meeting with men in expensive suits. Shaking hands outside buildings I don't recognize, getting into cars with diplomatic plates. What am I looking at? I ask. Our father wasn't just a real estate developer, Miguel says. He was a money launderer for cartels, for corrupt politicians, for anyone with dirty money who needed it cleaned. That's how he built his empire, not through smart investments. Through crime. I stare at the photos, my mind refusing to process what he's saying. That's impossible. He was investigated by the SEC multiple times, because he was good at it. Really good. Shell companies, offshore accounts, legitimate businesses that looked clean. The real estate was just the vehicle. He'd buy properties with drug money, hold them, sell them at a profit, and suddenly dirty money became clean investment returns. Maria speaks up from her chair. That's why he kept us secret. Not because he was ashamed. Because we knew too much. I worked in his Miami office. I saw things, documents, meetings with men who scared me. When she got pregnant with me, Miguel continues, he panicked. He couldn't risk her talking. So he paid her off. Set us up in an apartment he owned so he could keep tabs on us. Made sure we were comfortable enough not to cause trouble but isolated enough that we couldn't tell anyone what we knew. I look at Maria. But you tried to leave, in 2008, she nods. Miguel was 13. I was tired of lying to him. So I told Richard the first was done. That I was going to take Miguel and leave. And he destroyed you, I say quietly. He threatened me first. Said if I left, if I ever told anyone about him, he would make sure I lost Miguel. That he'd use his money and lawyers to prove I was an unfit mother. When threats didn't work, he evicted us. Then he sued me for defamation. Dragged me through court until I had no money left for a lawyer. We moved here, Miguel says. Started over. New town, new names, new life. Mom worked double shifts to put me through high school. I got a scholarship to NMSU but dropped out because we needed money. Been working construction ever since. He gestures around the modest apartment. This is what we have. This is what Richard Ashford's son gets. Until he took it all away from me too, I say. Just like he took everything from you. Why? Miguel leans forward, his eyes intense. Why did he do this to you? You were the legitimate kid. Because I disappointed him. I chose philosophy over business. I reminded him of my mother's soft emotional week. So he engineered my destruction as a final lesson. Signed me up for millions in debt. Left me a letter explaining it was all to make me stronger. Miguel slams his fist on the table. That's who he was. A sadist. He didn't just want money or power. He wanted control. He wanted to break people and convince himself it was for their own good. So what do? I ask. He's dead. We can't hurt him. No, Miguel says slowly, a dangerous smile spreading across his face. But we can destroy everything he built. His legacy, his reputation. How? He taps the envelope with the photos. These pictures? I took them. When I was 16, I followed him for 6 months. Documented his meetings, his associates, the buildings he used as fronts. I didn't know what I was going to do with the information. I just knew I needed proof. Did you ever try to go to the police? And tell them what? Without real evidence beyond photos I took as a teenager. They would have laughed me out of the station. He pauses. But now he's dead. Now his empire has collapsed. Now investigators are digging through his finances. Now is the perfect time to hand them evidence of actual crimes. They'll investigate everyone connected to him. I say, his business partners. His investors. Good, let them all burn. Everyone who helped him, everyone who benefited from his dirty money, they all deserve to go down. There's more, Maria says quietly. Richard had a partner. Someone who helped him set up the offshore accounts. Someone who knew everything. Who? I don't know his real name. Richard called him the accountant, but I saw him once. At the Miami office. Late at night. Your father was angry, said the accountant was taking too many risks. The accountant said without him the whole operation would collapse. Do you remember what he looked like? Tall, white, maybe 50 at the time, so 70s now. Very thin, wire-rimmed glasses, British accent. He had a briefcase with initials on it. JRH. JRH. I pull out my phone and scroll through the photos I took in the storage unit, and then I find it. A bank statement from the Cayman Islands. The account manager's name, J.R. Hastings. I found him, I say, showing Maria. Is this the signature you saw? She squints at the screen, then nods. Yes, that's it. Miguel leans over to look. So we have photos of Dad's criminal associates, bank statements from offshore accounts, the name of his accomplice. What else do we need? A timeline, I say. We need to show how it all fits together. When the crime started, how much money? Which properties were fronts? We need to build a case so airtight that even the best lawyers can't defend it. And then, Miguel asks? We hand it to the FBI, the SEC, the media, all of them, I say. We burn it all down. Miguel looks at me for a long moment. I hated you for a long time. I see pictures of the mansion online. Read about you at Harvard. And I think that should have been me. I'm sorry. Don't be. Turns out he screwed us both. At least now we can screw him back. Maria stands up. I'll make coffee. This is going to take a while. We spread all the documents out on the table, the photos from Miguel, the bank statements from the storage unit, everything we have, and we start building our case. Outside, the sun sets over the desert, painting the sky orange and red. Beautiful and violent. Just like the revenge we're planning. We work through the night. Maria makes pot after pot of coffee while Miguel and I organize documents, cross-reference dates, build timelines. By 3 a.m, the dining table looks like something from a detective show, papers everywhere, strings of connection only we can see. Look at this, I say, holding up 2 documents side by side. June 1998. Dad purchases a warehouse in Miami for $800,000 cash. 3 months later, he sells it for $1.2 million. 40% profit in 90 days. Impossible in a normal market, Miguel says. Unless the buyer wasn't buying a warehouse. They were buying clean money. And look who signed off on the sale. I point to the signature. J.R. Hastings. He facilitated the whole thing. We find the pattern repeated dozens of times. Properties bought with cash, held briefly, sold at suspicious profits. Always with Hastings' signature somewhere in the paperwork. Always offshore accounts involved. This goes back 30 years, Miguel says, running his hand through his hair. Dad was doing this before I was even born. Before you were born. This wasn't something he fell into. This was always his business model, which means everyone who worked with him had to know, I say, his lawyers, his accountants, his business partners. You don't accidentally launder hundreds of millions of dollars. Maria has fallen asleep on the couch, exhausted from reliving her worst memories. Miguel covers her with a blanket, his movements gentle. When he comes back to the table, his expression is harder. We need to find Hastings, he says. He's the key to everything. With his testimony, we could prove all of this. Without it, we just have circumstantial evidence and photos. He'd never testify willingly. He'd be implicating himself. So we make him a deal. Immunity in exchange for cooperation. The FBI does it all the time. We're not the FBI, Miguel. We're 2 broke kids with a vendetta. Then we find the FBI agents who are. The ones investigating gas bankruptcy. We hand them everything and let them run with it. I think about Catherine Chun, my father's attorney. She mentioned investigators were already looking into the collapse. If we could get this evidence to them, show them it wasn't just bad investments but actual criminal activity. We need more than documents, I say. We need someone on the inside. Someone who worked with Dad, who knows where the bodies are buried. Literally or figuratively? I look at him sharply. What do you mean literally? Miguel's expression darkens. You think a man who laundered cartel money for 30 years never had to deal with people who became problems? Dad wasn't just a white-collar criminal, Alex. He was connected to people who solve problems permanently. The implication hangs in the air between us. I think about my father's coldness, his ruthlessness, his complete lack of empathy. Could he have ordered someone killed? Could the man who destroyed his own children's lives have taken someone else's life entirely? We need to be careful, I say quietly. If Dad was involved with people like that, if Hastings is still connected to them, then we're already in danger, Miguel finishes. The moment you found that storage unit, the moment you came looking for me, we painted targets on our backs. Maybe we should stop. Go to the police with what we have and let them handle it. And say what? Hi, we're the children of a dead criminal, and we think his business partner might be dangerous, they'll file a report and forget about us. We need proof. Real, undeniable, prosecutable proof. I looked down at the documents spread across the table. 30 years of crime documented in careful detail. My father kept everything because he thought he was untouchable. He never imagined his own children would be the ones to destroy him. There's someone else who might know things, I say slowly. Dad's executive assistant, Sharon. She worked for him for 25 years. She scheduled every meeting, handled every call. If anyone knows how to find Hastings, it's her. Would she talk to you? I don't know, maybe. She was always kind to me when I was growing up. She used to sneak me candy when Dad was in meetings. But she was loyal to him. Extremely loyal. People's loyalty tends to shift when they find out their boss was a criminal, Miguel points out. Especially if they're worried about going down with the ship. He's right. Sharon is in her 60s now. If she gets implicated in Dad's crimes, she could spend her retirement in prison. That's powerful motivation to cooperate. She lives in Connecticut, I say. About an hour from the old mansion. I could drive up there, talk to her face to face. Not alone you can't. If Dad really was connected to dangerous people, if Hastings is watching for anyone digging into the past. Miguel shakes his head. I'm coming with you. You don't have to. Yes, I do. You're my sister. Like it or not, we're in this together now. Sister. It's the first time he said the word without bitterness. Something in my chest loosens, just a little. Okay, I say. We go to Connecticut. We talk to Sharon. We find Hastings. And then we end this. And then we end this, Miguel repeats. Maria stirs on the couch, mumbling something in Spanish. Miguel checks his phone. It's almost 4 a.m. We should sleep. We'll need to be sharp for whatever comes next. He's right, but I'm not sure I can sleep. My mind is racing with everything we've discovered, everything we still need to find out. But my body is exhausted, running on fumes and caffeine. Miguel disappears into what must be his old bedroom and comes back with blankets and a pillow. Couch is yours. It's not comfortable, but it's better than nothing. Thank you for all of this, for believing me, for helping me. He pauses at the doorway to his room. I spent 15 years hating Richard Ashford, wishing I could make him pay for what he did to Mom and me. I never thought I'd get the chance. So thank you too. For giving me that. He closes the door. I curl up on the couch, pulling the blanket around me. Through the window, I can see the first hints of dawn starting to lighten the sky. My father wanted to teach me about survival, about being a predator. He wanted to strip away my privilege and see what I was really made of. Well, Dad, I think. Lesson learned. I'm not the soft, weak girl you thought I was. I'm not Mom, fading away quietly. I'm not Miguel, forced to hide and change my name. I'm Alexandra Ashford. I'm $60 million in debt. I have nothing left to lose. And I'm coming for everyone who helped you build your empire of lies. 2 days later, Miguel and I are driving through Connecticut in my rental car. We left Maria in Las Cruces with strict instructions to call us if anything unusual happens, strange cars outside the apartment, unknown phone calls, anything. She wasn't happy about us leaving, but she understood. This isn't her fight anymore. She paid her dues 15 years ago. The landscape feels both familiar and alien to me. I grew up here, spent 18 years of my life in these wealthy suburbs where every lawn is perfectly manicured and every house costs more than most people make in a lifetime. But I'm seeing it differently now, wondering how many of these mansions were bought with dirty money. How many of my father's friends and neighbors were complicit in his crimes? You okay? Miguel asks from the passenger seat. Just thinking about how I used to see this place. Like it was normal. Like everyone lived like this. Culture shock in reverse, he says. Welcome to how the other 99% lives. We're staying at a motel off I-95, the kind with hourly rates and stains on the carpet that you don't want to think too hard about. It's all I can afford now. Miguel insisted on splitting the cost even though I know he can't really afford it either. Pride runs in the Ashford blood, apparently. Sharon lives in a small cottage in Fairfield, about 20 minutes from where the Ashford mansion used to stand. I say used to, because I looked it up online yesterday. It's been seized by creditors and is scheduled for auction next month. 20,000 square feet of my childhood, about to be sold to the highest bidder. I feel nothing about that. The house was never really a home anyway. We pull up outside Sharon's cottage just after noon. It's charming in that New England way, white with black shutters, flower boxes in the windows, a small garden out front. The kind of place you retire to after a lifetime of hard work. Let me do the talking, I say to Miguel as we walk up the path. She knows me, she doesn't know you. We don't want to spook her, he nods. I knock on the door. For a moment, nothing. Then I hear shuffling inside, the sound of multiple locks being undone. The door opens a crack, security chain still attached. Sharon's face appears in the gap. She looks older than I remember, more tired. Her hair has gone completely gray and there are deep lines around her eyes. Alexandra? She says, her voice uncertain. Hi Sharon, I'm sorry to show up unannounced. I was hoping we could talk. About what? About my father. About his business. About what you know. Her expression hardens. I don't know anything. And even if I did, I signed an NDA. I can't talk about Richard's affairs. Sharon, he's dead. The NDA doesn't matter anymore. And besides, I'm not asking you to gossip. I'm asking for help. I need to understand what he was really doing, who he was really working with, why. What difference does it make now? Because I'm drowning in his debt. Because his creditors are coming after me for $60 million. Because I think there's more to his bankruptcy than just bad investments, and if I can prove it, maybe I can get out from under it. It's not entirely true proving Dad's crimes won't erase my debt, but it's close enough. And I can see Sharon wavering, sympathy fighting with self-preservation. Who's he? She asks, nodding at Miguel. My brother. Our father's son from another relationship. Sharon's eyes widen. I didn't know Richard had another child. That's because he kept us secret from each other. He kept a lot of things secret. Sharon looks at Miguel more carefully now, and I can see the moment she recognizes the resemblance. The same eyes, the same jawline. Undeniable proof that Richard Ashford's carefully constructed life was full of lies. She closes the door. For a second I think she's shutting us out, but then I hear the chain sliding off. The door opens fully. Come in, she says quietly. But I'm not promising anything. Inside the cottage is cozy and cluttered. Photos on every surface, knickknacks from travels, a life lived fully after decades of service. We sit in her small living room while she makes tea with shaking hands. I worked for your father for 25 years, she finally says, settling into an armchair across from us. I thought I knew him. Thought he was a brilliant businessman who maybe wasn't great at personal relationships, but was fundamentally decent. And then everything collapsed, and I realized I didn't know him at all. What changed? I ask. After he died, the investigators came. FBI, SEC, state attorneys. They asked me questions about offshore accounts, shell companies, wire transfers I'd arranged. They showed me documents with my signature on them. Things I signed thinking they were routine business papers. Turns out I'd been facilitating money laundering for decades without even knowing it.
Are you in trouble? Miguel asks. I don't know yet. They said if I cooperate, if I help them understand how Richard's operation worked, they might grant me immunity. But I can't cooperate because I genuinely don't understand it. I was just following orders. Scheduling meetings, filing paperwork, making phone calls. I didn't ask questions because asking questions wasn't my job. Did you ever meet someone called J.R. Hastings? I ask. Sharon's face goes pale. How do you know that name? We found documents, bank statements from the Cayman Islands. His name is all over them. She sets down her tea with a trembling hand. James Hastings, British. He handled Richard's overseas accounts. He came to the office maybe 3 or 4 times a year, always late at night, always when everyone else had gone home. Richard would tell me to stay, to take notes during their meetings, but the notes were always destroyed afterward, shredded, burned, erased. What did they talk about in these meetings? Properties, transfers, investors, but not like normal business conversations. They spoke in code. The Miami transaction meant something different than an actual property in Miami. The Swiss consideration wasn't about Switzerland. I could never follow what they were really discussing. Do you know where we can find Hastings now? I ask. Sharon shakes her head. After Richard died, Hastings vanished. The investigators are looking for him too, but it's like he never existed. No current address, no phone number, no social media presence. The man is a ghost. Miguel and I exchange glances. A ghost with decades of knowledge about my father's criminal empire. No wonder the FBI wants to find him. Is there anything else you can tell us? I ask. Anything that might help us understand what Dad was really doing? Sharon is quiet for a long moment. Then she gets up and goes to a closet. She pulls out a box from the top shelf and brings it to the coffee table. After Richard died, before the investigators came, I cleaned out his private office. Most of it got seized, but there were a few personal items I managed to save. I kept them thinking maybe you'd want them someday. Photos, letters, personal effects. She opens the box. Inside are framed photos of my father receiving awards, giving speeches, shaking hands with celebrities and politicians. His life reduced to a cardboard box of memorabilia, and underneath everything, a small leather journal. I almost didn't save this, Sharon says, handing it to me. It's not really a diary, just random notes, dates, numbers. But something about it felt important, like maybe it meant something. I opened the journal. The handwriting is my father's precise, controlled, economical, page after page of what looks like gibberish. Random numbers, initials, dates without context. But as I flip through it, a pattern starts to emerge. The numbers could be coordinates. The initials could be names. The dates could be transactions. This isn't gibberish. It's a code. My father's personal record of everything he didn't want anyone else to see. Can we keep this? I ask Sharon. She nods. Take it. Take all of it. I don't want any reminders of him in my house anymore. I spent 25 years of my life serving a man who was using me to commit crimes. I'm 63 years old and facing the possibility of prison because I was too loyal and too stupid to ask questions. You're not stupid, I say. He was just that good at manipulating people. That doesn't make me feel better. She looks at Miguel. I'm sorry about what he did to you. To both of you. You deserved better than Richard Ashford as a father. Yeah, Miguel says simply. We did. We leave with the box of my father's things. As we're walking back to the car, I clutch the journal like it's made of gold. Because maybe this is the key that unlocks everything. What now? Miguel asks as we drive away. Now we decode this thing. Figure out what these numbers mean, and we find James Hastings before the FBI does. Why, before the FBI, I look at my brother. Because the FBI will offer him a deal. Immunity in exchange for testimony. And if he takes it, he'll tell them exactly what they want to hear and nothing more. But if we find him first, if we can convince him we're a threat, maybe he'll give us something the FBI would never get. That's dangerous. Everything about this is dangerous, Miguel, but we're in too deep to stop now. He doesn't argue, because he knows I'm right. We opened this door when I found that storage unit, when Miguel showed me those photos, when we decided to stop being victims and start being hunters. Our father taught us to be predators. Now we're going to show him what that really means.
An imposing presence, wearing an elegant business suit, with a serious and realistic expression. We spend the next 3 days in that terrible motel room, surviving on vending machine snacks and gas station coffee, trying to decode my father's journal. Miguel has it spread across one bed while I have my laptop open on the other, cross-referencing every number and initial against the documents from the storage unit. This is impossible, Miguel says, throwing his pen across the room in frustration. It could mean anything. Without a key, without context. These are just random numbers. They're not random, I insist. Dad was meticulous. Everything he did had a purpose. These numbers mean something. I stare at the first page again. A date, June 15th, 94. The same date as his first property deal, the one he loved bragging about. Below it, 19.4284 minus 99.1277. Then initials, MS. Then a number, 450. Coordinates, I say suddenly. Miguel, these are coordinates. I type the numbers into Google Maps. It loads. Mexico City. A specific address in Mexico City. MS, Miguel says, reading over my shoulder. Maria Santos, your mother's initials are on this page? No, M's is. I pull up the documents from the storage unit, scanning through until I find it. Miguel Santos. Your birth certificate. MS isn't a person, it's documentation. He was recording where he kept proof of his secrets. So 450 would be what? Money? Thousands. $450,000. That's what he paid your mother over the years, probably. I flipped to the next page. Different coordinates. Different initials. Different amount. Page after page, a record of every payoff, every secret, every crime. My father didn't just launder money, he documented it. Created his own insurance policy in code in case anyone ever turned on him. He was blackmailing people, Miguel says slowly. Or protecting himself from being blackmailed. These aren't just transaction records. They're leverage. I keep flipping through. Most of the coordinates are in the Cayman Islands, Switzerland, Panama, tax havens, places where money goes to disappear. But then I find something different. A page dated 6 months ago, New York coordinates. Initials, JRH. And below that in my father's handwriting, final insurance. He thinks he's protected. He's not. James Hastings, I whisper. Dad knew Hastings would run if things went bad. So he left us a way to find him. I typed the coordinates into Google Maps. They lead to a building in Lower Manhattan. An office building in the financial district. That's probably where Hastings worked, Miguel says. But he's gone now. Those coordinates are useless if he's disappeared. unless Dad left more than one set of coordinates. I keep searching through the journal, page by page, until near the very end I find another entry. Dated 2 weeks before my father died. Different coordinates. Upstate New York this time. A small town called Rhinebeck. And next to it, not initials but a full note. Contingency. If all fails, the accountant retreats to history. Retreats to history, Miguel reads aloud. What does that mean? I'm already typing Rhinebeck into Google, adding James Hastings to the search. Nothing comes up. I tried different combinations. James Hastings, accountant, New York. James Hastings, British, finance, nothing. Then I try something different. Historical societies in Rhinebeck, museums, archives, and there it is. A small article from 3 months ago in the local paper. British historian purchases historic estate in Rhinebeck. James R. Hastings, formerly of London, has acquired the 18th century Vanderbilt cottage, citing his lifelong passion for American Revolutionary history. A young woman in her early 20s with long light brown hair and blue eyes, a slender build, and an elegant understated style stands. Beside her father, a tall man in his 40s with short, slightly graying hair and brown eyes, an imposing presence wearing an elegant business suit with a serious and realistic expression. He's hiding in plain sight, I say, showing Miguel the article. New identity, new life, new story, but same initials. Same arrogance. We need to go there, now. And say what? Hi, we know you helped our father launder hundreds of millions of dollars. Please confess? Miguel stands up, pacing the small room. We tell him the truth, that we have evidence, that the FBI is looking for him, that his only chance is to cooperate with us, help us understand what Dad was really doing, and maybe we can all get out of this without going to prison. You think he'll believe we can protect him? No, but I think he'll believe we can destroy him. And sometimes that's more powerful than protection. He's right. Fear is a better motivator than hope. My father understood that. Used it his entire life. We leave tomorrow morning, I say. Drive to Rhinebeck, find this estate, and confront Hastings. And if he refuses to talk? Then we take everything we have to the FBI and let them handle it. But at least we tried, Miguel nods. We spend the rest of the night preparing, organizing documents, planning what we'll say, trying to anticipate how Hastings will react. At some point, I fall asleep with the journal still open on my lap. I dream about my father. He's standing in his study, the one with the massive desk and the wall of windows overlooking the grounds. But the study is empty now. No furniture, no artwork, nothing. Just my father in an empty room. You're smarter than I gave you credit for, he says, finding the journal, decoding it, tracking down Hastings. Very impressive, Alexandra. I'm not doing this to impress you. Of course you are. Everything you do is about me. Hating me, destroying my legacy, proving you're strong enough to survive what I did to you. I'm dead, and I still control your entire life. I want to argue, but the dream logic won't let me. Because he's right. Every decision I've made since his death has been a reaction to him. What was the point? I ask. Of all of it? The crime, the secrets, the destruction. You had everything. Why wasn't it enough? He smiles. Because having everything means nothing if people don't know you have it. Power without recognition is just effort. I wanted the world to see me. To know that I built something from nothing. You built it from crime. From hurting people. I built it from understanding how the world really works. The only difference between me and the men who are considered legitimate is that I was honest about what I was doing. They just had better PR. You destroyed your own children. I gave you adversity. Most people never face real adversity. They live soft, meaningless lives and die without ever knowing what they're capable of. I forced you to find out. I hate you. Good. Hate is energy. Use it. Channel it. Become everything I knew you could be. I wake up gasping, the journal falling to the floor. It's still dark outside. Miguel is asleep on the other bed, his breathing steady and calm. I pick up the journal and hold it. This thing contains my father's entire criminal empire, documented in his own hand. Evidence that could send dozens of people to prison. Evidence that proves everything he built was a lie. And I'm the one who found it. Me, the soft, weak, disappointing daughter. Maybe my father was right about one thing. Maybe I did need adversity to find out what I'm capable of. But he was wrong about everything else. I'm not using this hate to become like him. I'm using it to make sure no one ever becomes like him again. Tomorrow we find Hastings, we get the truth, and we end this. My father's legacy ends with me.